Welcome to Sage Audio. Today we're talking about how to analog your master. But first, if you have a mix that you need mastered, send it to us at sageaudio.com to receive a free mastered sample of it. How to route an analog emulated master. If you're trying to make your digital master sound more indicative of an analog master, you need to start by considering how analog routing works. Imagine that the signal is getting routed in an actual analog system, and consider each step that the signal goes through from start to finish. Typically, an analog master would have begun with the track being stored on a 2-track mix bus tape machine, so we can start with a tape machine plugin. From there, it would be sent to some form of amplifier or transmitter of the signal, like a console, so we can use a tube or transformer emulator. Then, we'll route the signal to an analog EQ and finish with an analog emulated limiter. Finally, the master would end up back on tape and then to vinyl. How to add analog distortion to your master. Analog distortion is any form of distortion that's indicative of classic hardware components and their distortion behavior. This distortion will vary from component to component. When mastering, analog emulated distortion can make the signal sound both classic and warm, as well as full and impressive. Tube distortion is commonly emulated. Typically, it creates a strong second-order harmonic, resulting in a warm, full sound. Tape is a bit brighter since it can cause higher-order harmonic distortion. When mastering, carefully pick which distortion types you introduce, since they heavily correlate with the final timbre of your master. Also, always use oversampling when it's available, since this will reduce aliasing, a distinctly digital form of distortion. How to add analog compression to your master. What makes analog compression different from digital compression is the introduction of nonlinearities in the ratio of the compression. These nonlinearities include soft knee settings, as well as a ratio that doesn't remain consistent with the amplitude. When mastering, these characteristics can be emulated to create an analog sound. A lot of digital compressors offer a soft knee setting, which will cause more gradual compression that's less noticeable, but the compressor will begin to compress at lower amplitudes, resulting in more overall compression when compared to hard knee settings. It's a little harder to find a digital compressor that offers non-linear ratios, but Presswork by Yuhi is a good example. If you've heard of other ones like this, definitely let me know. How to add analog EQ to your master. Analog equalization is unique in that it imparts distinct slopes, Q values, and phase relationships that don't occur in digital systems unless purposely programmed in. Now, if you want to create a more analog sound with your equalization, use something like the Curve Bender or similar equalizer plugins. Sometimes a DAW will also offer an emulation of a Pultec or API equalizer, which is a good alternative. If you have the FabFilter Pro Q3, you can use the natural phase setting and look up some of the charts of your favorite analog equalizers to emulate the slopes and curves. How to add analog saturation to your master. If you've already added soft knee compression and some distortion to your master, then you've saturated your master. But if you'd like to combine these effects into one, you can use a dedicated saturation plugin. By combining compression and harmonic distortion, you end up with a full and controlled sound. In analog processing, saturation occurs when the signal that's being sent through an electrical component is of too high an amplitude to be handled by the component. For example, tape saturation occurs when the particles of the tape have all been reoriented, yet there's still signal to be added. A gradual nonlinear input-to-output ratio will occur, also known as compression, while harmonics form. How to add analog stereo imaging to your master. Analog stereo imaging isn't common, but there are some ways to introduce stereo expansion using analog emulations. This results in expansion that's distinctly analog. Tape crosstalk and tape asperity are two technical issues that are used if you intend to expand your stereo image, but you want your master to still sound analog. Asperity refers to imperfections on the surface of tape which causes noise to exist in the stereo image, resulting in a perceived wider image. Crosstalk occurs when the left and right channels bleed into one another. This will cause phase cancellation and stereo expansion. How to add analog noise or analog dithering. There are many reasons why you might want to add some mild analog noise or distortion to your master. It causes more realistic emulation, it can have a pleasing effect, and it can serve as dithering when converting to lower bit depths. Analog noise varies greatly from processor to processor. For example, tape noise will be slightly different than tube noise. Furthermore, tape degradation will alter the noise floor and behavior of the noise. What's interesting is that if you needed dithering, this analog noise will often be louder than the quantization distortion caused in a digital recording. meaning that you've already dithered your master. If you have a mix that you need mastered, send it to us at sageaudio.com to receive a free mastered sample of it. Also, subscribe to stay up to date on all of our latest videos. Thank you so much for watching.